Right, today I'm going to do my talk on individualistic learning style versus the cooperative learning style. Oh, Mike, yeah. Start again, yeah. Take two. There we are. Right, so to reiterate, I'm going to do my speech on individualistic learning versus cooperative learning.
There's two types of grouping. There's within class
Sorry, click on. So why this topic? Basically, it was completely influenced by my own personal experiences of sort of learning and education. Now, too many times I've been sat in a classroom and the teacher has stood at the front of the classroom and just talked at you for the whole hour or 2 hours if you've got a double lesson. And to me, it was never a very effective way of me learning because I would tune out and, you know, I sort of would get a bit bored. So I decided to look into other ways that we could learn and implement learning in a better way rather than just talking at the student. And I found that most educational settings tend to use sort of this individualistic learning style. But actually it's been proven to be less effective than other styles, so I decided to look into these opposing styles and see sort of what they offered. So individualistic learning is teacher-centred, a traditional method. The positive aspects, Johnson & Johnson say that it causes self-discipline, basically because the teacher is talking at you, you take your notes, you then decide to go home, read over your notes and revise, and it's completely down to you, it's up to your own self-discipline to pass that exam. Negative aspects, Reeve and Dessy said that it causes stress, and when stress is encountered within the educational setting, it then decreases motivation, and in turn we then do worse in exams. And Johnson & Johnson, like, these are the key people, so they sort of come up with pros and cons of all styles. They said that teacher-centred, they lack group work ethics because they aren't able to work within groups. It all becomes about them and how well they can do. So group work, obviously, you need to learn how to cooperate with one another, and they say that individualistic learning affects that and students aren't able to do it. So what is a more effective way of teaching? And I came up with cooperative learning. Now, personally, I can't ever say that I've come across cooperative learning within education. I don't know whether that's just me or whether anybody else has experienced cooperative learning, but it's different to group work in that group work tends to be part of an individualistic learning style. So the teacher stands up and then says, right, in groups, get together and talk about the issue that we're talking about. We'll then come back and discuss it as a class. So there's no, so that's the difference between group work, is that it's all about just sort of discussing and you then come back and individually learn from there. This is student-centred learning, whereas individualistic is all about the teacher. Brown and Parker state that there are 5 elements to cooperative learning. The first is positive independence, and basically all students participate within the setting. They all have a task and a responsibility, and then from there they then work as a group in order for a positive outcome. The second one was face-to-face promotive interaction, and this basically means that they promote each other's success. They say how well everybody's doing within the group because they know as a whole that if you give positive feedback that it's going to increase interaction, it's going to increase learning, and then in turn the effect is positive as a whole at the end. The third is face-to-face promotive interaction. So each student must show that they it's individual accountability, and this means that each student must show that they know the content that's being studied, and this basically takes away social loafing because everybody has their own role, and if they don't complete that role, the whole group fails basically. So each individual then shows that they are able to, that they know about the topic in hand and they've all got their own responsibility that will benefit in the end. Fourth is social skills. Obviously, if you're working within a cooperative learning style, you have more leadership skills and decision making, you've got better communication. And then they said that the last one was group processing, and basically this means that all individuals within the cooperative group then have to decide how well they've actually done, the effectiveness of how they've all implemented their own ideas and ways that they can make it better for next time. So the pros of cooperative learning. Now, there is loads and loads of research out there about cooperative learning, and to be fair, most of it is positive. I really struggled to find some downsides to it. Johnson & Johnson again, they found that it's the most effective method by which pupils can gain more knowledge from in comparison to other learning styles. Brown and Parker said that students engage in group activities that increase learning as well as being applicable to all other curriculums. So it's not just limited to one sort of English. It can go to maths, it can go to science, it can go to the arts, and it can go across all age levels as well. It's not just limited to college or secondary. It can go through to primary. Say and Brady say that it's an affirmative method that nurtures academic achievement because it is it's been proven to be more beneficial to the pupils. And they also found that when cooperative learning was put in within the classroom, that there was increased attendance. The time in which they completed tasks increased because they all had to work together rather than, oh, we're working as a group, we'll have a little natter, and then, an hour when it should only have taken 20 minutes. It's increased the time to which they complete their tests. Motivation, and they said that the pupils appeared to enjoy learning more rather than sort of all looking back at the teacher a bit dumbfaced, and they sort of appeared to enjoy school and education. Johnson & Johnson and also Slavin completely reiterate the findings from Say and Brady. So, cons. As I said, there are very few limitations, and I think the limitations that are out there can be got over. Sharon is the only person that I could find something that said negative about it, and she said that teachers may become confused about how to apply cooperative learning because education is constantly changing, and if it is constantly changing, then how do they apply cooperative learning to make sure that all individuals are gaining the most that they possibly can? She also said that high-achieving students may feel resentment towards other pupils within their group because they could be an A-grade student and they're paired with someone who's a D-grade, and the fact that they've all got to work together would then mean that the person who's an A-grade then resents the D-grade person because they're holding them back. But I'll go on to talk about this a bit later on as to how we could get over those issues anyway. So what's being done about this issue? Johnson & Johnson brothers, they're sort of the key researchers into cooperative learning. They've got 20 years of research under their belt. They've done 80 studies and numerous amounts of reviews on other styles of learning. They have set up the Cooperative Learning Centre in the College of Education in America, and basically teachers from all over the world, and I mean all over the world, literally Korea, New Zealand, England, Ireland, Australia, everywhere. Teachers come from all over the world to go to this centre to learn how to teach cooperative learning more effectively to their pupils. Not only this, but Johnson & Johnson also travel around to schools trying to get them to enrol in the cooperative learning method within their teaching styles, basically because they believe that it's the best way to learn. And all the results from the studies have showed really positive results. Teachers have seen an increase in pupils' sort of personalities. They've come out of themselves, their self-esteem has grown, their belief in their capabilities, their attendance, all sorts has grown. So they think it's a really positive method to use within the education system. So to conclude, individualistic learning is teacher-centred, traditional method, but is it outdated? Cooperative learning is student-centred, it's different to group work in sort of the reasons I stated before. It's a very strong method of teaching with very little negative to say about it. I could only find two things to say. And Johnson & Johnson brothers, Cooperative Learning Centre, so they're just basically trying to change the way we teach through their learning centre. So what is my view on the whole cooperative learning versus individualistic learning? Well, I think individualistic learning, there are some settings which you cannot get away from it. Like first year in psychology, coming here, there is no way that a lecturer can incorporate cooperative learning into a lecture theatre. There's 400 first years. There's just no way they can do it. The only way they can do it is to stand there and teach them their knowledge that they know about the topic. The pupils then go off and we then revise it for our exams and we pass it. That's pretty much, there's situations where you can't get away from it. However, within situations like secondary school and primary, and definitely college as well, I think you could definitely implement it, and it would sort of, obviously the results are there, it shows that it's a better way of learning. And also, what was I going to say? I had something else then, but I've completely forgotten it. I can't remember it. Completely gone blank. But anyway, so I think that cooperative learning should definitely be... Oh, that was it. Remembered it now. I think that we're never going to get away from individualistic learning because it's a traditional theory. Then obviously older teachers who are sort of at the end of their careers are still going to carry on teaching like that. So I think it's definitely something that could be implemented within the PGCE programme to help sort of new teachers that are going in to show that there is more than the teacher-centred way to learn. So that was what I was going to say. That was what I remembered. Thank you very much. Any questions? I'm quite happy for no questions. Yeah, you got loads. Okay. Yeah, okay.
How do you think it affects like testing and stuff? Like if they learn in groups more, and I know it's not just group work, but with the more cooperative style, do you think it makes testing the more difficult?
Well, I think there was a study out there actually. I didn't put it in, but they found that because of the increase in attendance and the increase of their attitude towards learning and things, test results actually increased, and this was through the Johnson & Johnson study. That was one of the feedback that teachers gave back, was that grades increased by quite a lot because they felt that they were sort of able to learn better under the situations because peer learning and all that sort of thing. So it was actually shown that test grades increased because of it rather than decreased. So, yeah.
Obviously you make the point that like in university we're not really able to do it. Like, do you think there's any way that students can be encouraged to go and do group work like outside the classroom together in the form of, say, revising and discussing the issue?
I think perhaps, I don't think you're going to get sort of students that will just actively do it. I know, let's go set up a cooperative learning group. I think perhaps maybe if they enrolled it as part of the syllabus and, you know, in order to complete a task that then, I don't know, 10% of their grade was due to that, maybe we'd be able to implement it in that way, sort of outside of the lecture theatre, maybe. But I don't think that, because people aren't really aware of it, I don't think it's not like they're going to actively go out and do it. But if it was part of what they had to do, then maybe. Yeah, so it's sort of similar to that, where you know that sort of you've got sort of someone on the side that would then go through and you talk about research methods or whatever. Maybe we could do it.
Just more of a clarification thing.
Yep.
So they, in the cooperative learning, they work in the groups, and then they get this, do they all get the same grade? Are they all evaluated the same, or do they get like individual like grades? I'm just trying to figure out.
Okay, no, it's fine. Basically, with cooperative learning, they all have their own roles, and it's more to do with getting to learn the knowledge rather than being assessed on the actual knowledge at the end. So obviously, at the end of the day, they're going to go and they're going to revise on their own, but the fact that they've learnt it beforehand makes it better. So they're not graded individually, but they've got to work as a group to make sure that they reach that end goal of passing the exam. All right, thank you.